Yo, what's going on, bro? So I'm gonna explain this price action real quick. So just looking at price at the opening, I was just kind of looking for bullish price action, and the simple reason is because if you look how the previous week traded, we traded into all these failure swing, right? We traded into all these failure swings with SMT right here, and then we displaced up, right? So when I saw this high being taken, we did form a reversal candle intraday, but then we can see that Friday just traded away from that high, basically, right? So this is a continuation signature. We're failing to reverse of a significant high because the next highs are all the way up here, right? So this is the only point of reversal I'm looking at. So when the new wick opens and we open low first with this wick, now specifically this wick doesn't really support expansion, but what it is doing is respecting the 50% of the previous daily range, which is really significant, right? Because if we start trading below the 50%, we can't expect it to just come up then again, right? Or we just have to adjust where we're gonna target, right? Because we can't be targeting all the way up here. If like we make a huge wick, we have to target like intraday, like sessions highs, or like targeting the daily open. Now the good signature here is that when we open the new daily candle, we can see we're basically just gonna hit it now. We did leave failure swing, so we opened, we left this high open, so we didn't trade away from high resistance where we're trading away from low resistance. So all we did at the open was just dumping to the 50%. So if you look at the 4-hour profile, what I want you specifically to look at is how the 4 hours, so I look at the 6 a.m., that's where I start getting on the charts. So what we see specifically here at the 6 a.m. open is that RTY makes a SMT making low of day. And within this 4-hour candle, this 6 a.m. 4-hour candle, if you look on the 30-minute profiles or the hourly profiles, the 9:30 is what did the manipulation. So I'm going to go down to the lower time frames just to show you. So if the 6 a.m. manipulation, if the 6 a.m. manipulates at a point of interest, which is the 50% of the previous daily range, right? We obviously want to trade YM higher because that is the strongest pair. Because this is stronger, as you can see, because it made a higher high, while R2I made a lower low. So when we look at like the 30-minute profile, we can clearly see that this was the SMT right here, right? And at what time did we make the SMT, which is really significant? Of course, it's 9:30. So 9:30 opens low first, which is a great signature because we make the manipulation prior to the 10 a.m. news driver. So if 9:30 manipulates, then we can expect the news driver at 10 a.m. to expand away from that. So what we see is specifically is if YM is the strongest pair and NQ is one of the, I would say it's like one of the weakest, but it's still like we have clear targets here to target, so you can still trade this. But what we see specifically is like when YM is targeting the previous day high from so Friday's high from last week, then what we can do is we can mark out the 50% of the dealing range on NQ. And what we see is we hit right at 50% and then we come lower, right? So it's just kind of adjusting your targets. If NQ is weaker, you have to like look at the 50% of the dealing range, while on R2I since or on YM since that's the strongest one, we can specifically focus on how on the buy sell liquidity. And we can also see if we mark out the projections at the point of reversal, we can clearly see that, if I mark out right here, we can clearly see that the projections are aligning with the buy side liquidity. So if you look in the -4, -4.5, it's around this buy side, so you compare that, right? And something more interesting to note is that when we look at the sessions highs, if we want to go lower, this is like the only point of reversal, right? So when we see 9:30 makes them pulsing around with SMT at the 4-hour low, so we made a 6 a.m. manipulation. So if 6 a.m. reverses, we can expect 10 a.m. to go higher, especially when 9:30 made the manipulation. So what we have here is a 30-minute fractal, right? Which is just candle 1, 2, right? 9:30 is the candle 2, so we can expect 10 a.m. to be the continuation play right here. And I'm gonna show you the profiles on the lower time frames. But specifically what I want you to look at is how we were reacting of these sessions highs. So if we want to reverse of these highs, like at first we started coming down, right, from these highs. So what I was specifically looking at is like, okay, if we're gonna start coming higher from here, this is the only point of continuation. So this fair value gap should hold in a bullish expansion. And what we see is when we fail to reverse of these highs, of these sessions highs, and we start closing above order blocks or opposing candles, we can clearly see like this is definitely looking bullish because now we're aligning every single time frame. The daily with the 4 hour, with the 1 hour, with the 30 minute, with the 5 minute. So the only entry I would have taken was right here. Now this was a fumble for me. I was doing other stuff. So I would have entered right here because this is like, okay, this is the only point. If this fair value gap held and we failed to reverse of this high, obviously this is like the only point of continuation as well. So I could have entered right here. I put my stop like 50% of this wick or this low right here. And I could have targeted this high, which was like a 4.3 RR trade. Now that's the biggest fumble on my part, just because what I could have done is go to the 3 minute, because if you look in the higher time frame candles right here, let me just mark out more candles. We can clearly see that we had our 30-minute fractal. So we have candle 1, 2, right? Candle 2 was the 930 with SMT. We came into this 5-minute fair value gap, and then we closed above these opposing candles. This is a valid order block, right? Because we hit a low, we hit a fair value gap, and then we're coming higher. So if I didn't enter here off the retest, I could have done something like this. But still, for me, the R wasn't really there, so I was like, okay, maybe I'll wait for something more significant, right? Because like the point range here, the 2R is still valid, right? But I want to specifically look at, you know, I want a tighter R, if that makes sense. And I didn't see anything more here. So there was multiple fumbles on my part, right? But, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it for this profile. It's a really, really great one. I'm not gonna lie, this is like an A+ setup, in my honest opinion. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. And goodbye.